It's incredible who you can meet down that famous Kirkcaldy Boulevard. Just this week, I was heading down the gym at the far end of the prom, and I met both Sir David Attenborough and Chris Packham. Now, they were deep in conversation, and I was a bit confused by this appearance of these two nature show hosts, Alan, both showing up on the Fife Riviera. Right as they started to mention something about stars showing up, I told them just to wait until Saturday because St Johnstone's first team bus will be appearing along the road then. Welcome back to the Oh No 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 podcast. I'm your host this evening, Robbie Weir, and it's just a two-man podcast tonight, Alan. We're going to be looking ahead to Saturday's game. Obviously, we've got St Johnstone, top of the league, clash between the two teams. Simo Valakari's unbeaten side come down the road and find Fettle. They've beaten Partick Thistle, Ross County and Arbroath already, and then they finally managed to break down Morton to get a draw a couple of weekends ago. I'm your host, Robbie Weir, and as you can see, I'm joined by Alan Douglas-Munn. Alan, you're away on holiday, but you're still committed to the cause this evening. How are you getting on?
I'm good, mate, yeah. I'm basically doing my best to avoid all the packing hell that's going on upstairs at the moment. To be fair, it's mostly done, but anyone who's married will know that, it's never all done, and there's always reason to be stressed out and what have you. But no, looking forward to going away tomorrow. Gutted to be missing the game on Saturday. It's always one of those things when you've booked a holiday, first thing you do is you look out to hope you're not going to miss any home games, especially with my current role at Starks Park as well. I'm always, and you invariably you do if you're going away for 10 days, miss one, but I'm really gutted to miss this one. It's going to be a really good game, I think, and a good early indication as to where we are in terms of kind of where we are in relation to the team that look like they're the favourites for the title now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm off in a few weeks to Turkey, and yeah, you're automatically, as you say, like I went down to London as well quite recently, and I thought I was going to have to miss the derby, but fortunately, the one positive about BBC doing these Friday night games is that it ended up just being like coincidentally the last derby that's just been and the derby that's coming up in October. Able to make them now thanks to the BBC coverage that's going to be getting applied there. So, yeah.
I will, of course, do my best to find a completely legitimate stream of the game while I'm over there as well.
Well, I mean, you can use Raith TV, given that you're, of course, overseas. So, no need for any NordVPN advertising here or anything along those lines. Not that we're falling foul to that or condoning it. A couple of bits of Rovers news, Alan, that have just came through. We'll start off with Logan Rayside going out on loan to Hillabeef. Obviously joined the club in the summer from the Community Foundation. Positive to see him getting out to get the opportunity to get some game time, just being able to sort of develop. He's obviously still very young, but giving him a chance to sort of get more involved in terms of senior football.
It does, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's a young lad, and he needs to be playing football, and it's one of the we don't have a reserve team for him to play in. We don't have an under 19s or anything that he could play in, so he needs to go out and get some game time. And I think it's good that it's not full time football either, so he'll still be training day to day with Rovers, and then probably go out a couple of nights a week and train with the Haws. And I think it'll do him some good to get some time on the pitch and be playing against men as well, to be out there and kind of having to put himself out. He's a big lad, to be fair. I think he'll handle the physical side of it. I'm fairly certain Uncle Robbie will make sure he's working just as hard, if not harder, than everyone else as well. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. And I think it's a good move for him because, especially with the new kind of more players coming in, I don't think he was going to be getting any game time. Maybe in the Challenge Cup, you might have seen him getting thrown in, but realistically, he's not going to be getting much time. And ultimately, I think I'm fairly certain he only signed a 1 year deal, so he's got to go out there and kind of try and make an impression. I'm sure we'll be getting kind of reports back from Robbie and the guys at Hillabeef as to how he's doing. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for him to be able to go out and play in that at a solid level of football, and just to be able to potentially get in there. There are a few, sort of, aside from Robbie Rayside, there's a few other connections there. I mean, Sam McGuff was on our books, I believe, as sort of a young goalkeeper. That's where I believe he's at now. And then on top of that as well, you've got someone with the surname Tosh, which I am going to guess is one of either Stevie or Paul's
I think
relations.
he's a striker, scores quite a lot of goals. I'm sure it's Stevie's son. There was a rumour doing the rounds during the summer that we were looking at him, actually, but that'd be a hell of a jump up. But,
well, that's it, isn't it? It's a very big step, but also
are they East of Scotland Premier?
I'm not too sure specifically, but they're round about that level. Yeah. But still, at least competitive enough to go out and be able to. And you're going to be playing against a lot of sort of former pros, players that are at that good level. So keen to see how he does. The other bit of news: Callum Smith appears to have been given the OK to return to training. I'm taking that at face value based on the sort of social media contributions that we've seen. So. Return for him, potentially probably not a bit too early in terms of squad, you would imagine, but being able to get back into the habit of training, being back in among the sort of first team on a more regular basis.
Yeah, really good to see. It's always a shame when someone kind of gets that kind of injury. He just kind of got his way back into the team. He was playing okay. He was looking sharp, and it's just a horrible injury to get. It was one of those that as soon as it happened, you were like, that does not look good. So hopefully he comes back from it and kind of hits the ground running and kind of gets back in and about the team, because I don't think I'm alone in thinking that he seems like a Barry Robson player. He seems like the kind of guy that Robson would like. He's quite quick. He's very hard working. He covers every blade of grass when he's on the pitch. I think he would fit into Barry's style of play very, very well.
Yeah, that's been the sort of common sort of discourse, shall we say, about Callum Smith. I mean, Callum Smith, we know that he's been a hard-working player under Ian Murray before, and then we saw it to a degree, obviously, time cut short, unfortunately, with Neil Collins. I think that did take away quite a lot, because we really saw him. He looked his best going into that game, where he was having a big contribution, and then obviously went down injured. And it was a real shame, because you were thinking, right, we're finally being able to sort of utilise him and see the best out of him. So, yeah, it gives us another string to our bow up top. In particular, we know that Barry Robson likes his runners. We've seen that plenty of times before. So, I mean, if he can just carry on where he was before, it's a big thing to come back from an ACL injury. Rovers fans certainly know that, given the sort of players that we've had involved at the club before. So keen to see how that one works out. So hopefully he'll be cleared to play back in the first team sooner rather than later. I mean, it's a big step back, but see how we do, and being able to add, because I think when we went into this season, you saw Lewis Vaughan and obviously Jack Hamilton as well. A lot made about sort of their track records in terms of injuries and not potentially having the biggest depth. I know that at the moment we're not really using forwards as such for large spells of the game, but you never know. That's all the potential there to be able to change that and be able to mix it up and to have them
it
there.
Gives you, if nothing else, it gives you an option of if you want to, if say Easton is struggling or McMullen's struggling, but the shape's really working for us, and you don't necessarily want to change the way we're playing, he's someone who could come on and play that, play in the same way that those two are playing. So you're not having to bring on, say, a Vaughan or a Hamilton, who obviously are very good players to bring on, but by bringing them on, you're not really playing the same way. You're having to change up a little bit. So it gives you that option. You also have the chin, of course, as well. But.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, in terms of systems, you think like you could put him and Paul McMullen up top, and then you've got two very, very quick players to sort of add into that dynamic. We'll see how things go. One to watch, definitely. I know that he did sign a sort of shorter term contract, so it'll be keen to see how things pan out with that over the course of the remainder of that deal. Let's turn our attention to St Johnstone. As we always do with these pre-match podcasts, have a bit of a look at our opponents. Since the League Cup, they've brought in, I believe it's 4 players, so they've added in Kai Fotheringham on a permanent basis from Dundee United. Liam Smith, he'd previously been Ayr in Dundee United, I think a short spell with us as well, on loan. But he's back from Bohemians in Ireland. Adam Forrester's joined as part of the cooperation agreement from Hearts that they've struck. And then you've got Yannick Wanner, who is their latest addition, who plays across all three positions in front, from Livingston. So realistically, you've got a two-time league winner in there. You've got a one-time league winner, a talented fullback, and a bit of an unknown quantity, Alan. It's solid business from Simo Valakari there since the League Cup.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump into the online discourse that's going on between St Johnstone and Rovers fans at the moment in terms of squad sizes and what does and what doesn't constitute bloated. I think what they've done is they've made it clear that they want to have two solid championship players in every position on the pitch, so that if anyone drops out, they can bring someone in and not really drop the quality. And that's ultimately what they seem to have done. The new guy that they've got for Livingston, who knows, because I think he played about 10 minutes over the League Cup. They only signed him in the summer, so that's bizarrely the second player that they just signed in the summer that they've sent out, albeit this one's just a loan. I suspect that's down to they've got him in and Martindale's thinking he's maybe not ready for coming straight into the Premiership. Let's let him get a bit of experience of Scottish football first, because Scottish football is very different. You know, a lot of players come up here or over here and they just don't, they're not ready for how kind of fast and in your face it is. So to be dealing with that and be playing at the top level can be a bit of a challenge. So I suspect that's what they're thinking is get him out in the Championship for a year, get him a bit of experience in Scottish football, and then see how he is when he comes back. It could also just be that they've got a bit of a bloated squad themselves. That's potentially something to do with it. But yeah, it all looks like pretty solid business for St Johnstone. They've picked up a few injuries as well, really, really surprisingly, with the players that have picked up these injuries. So, you know, they probably were needing to bring a few in to maintain that, you know, cover for each position that they're aiming for.
I did enjoy Davy Martindale's interview that he did, where basically he was just like, go and just try and replicate Joel Nibley, like it's something that anyone can do. Yeah, just speaking about that loan spell where he went out for 6 months, caused absolute chaos at Arbroath with Jack Hamilton. I'm not sure if Jack Hamilton was there at the same time, coming in the latter half of that season, I think. But yeah, just being able to go and do think that he'll bring something a bit different to the table compared to maybe what Saints have already. I know Sidibe is obviously very, very quick, but then you've got Uche to factor into the mix, who's signed a new contract. Yeah, I've enjoyed the fun and games regarding the St Johnstone squad. I'm not going to lie. I just find it very funny that a lot of the try to avoid the word discourse because we've used it quite a lot. A lot of the discussions, shall we say, are talking about how their retort is basically that Rovers have the same squad size. Now, we take out the likes of Logan Rayside, who's now away on loan. Callum Smith's not played yet because he's coming back from an ACL injury, and I know that they'll say the same for Big Mazulic at the back, who's suffered a similar injury, and he's well ahead of progress by all accounts. But yeah, you look at the players that I think that we've brought in compared to the ones that they've brought in. It's a very different ball game in terms of what we're playing. Callum Hanna's obviously. Barry Robson was speaking in the Club 1883 interview, sort of saying that I think he'll go out on loan. I think that we're basically just at a point where we can be like, right, quite happy with our bench. Whereas with them, I think a lot of the comments have came from the possession, certainly from myself looking at it. And then you're looking at almost like two starters, as you say, in every position. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because they're not going to go out and be like, we need to play fair and we need to do this. But yeah, it's just funny when you see the names that they're bringing in. And I do understand that they have had a very large squad beforehand, up at I think 40 players or something like that. So you can see it from that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think part of it comes from like they've brought so many in. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that a lot have gone out the door as well. But how much attention did you pay to the St Johnstone squad last year?
None.
Very little. Like little. I couldn't have probably named more than half a dozen other players for that season. So I don't see the names that are missing. I don't know who's going out. All I see is who they've signed. And you're looking at it going, bloody hell, they've signed a lot.
Yeah.
And they have. They've signed a lot of players. They've got there'll only be a handful of players who are playing in the first team this season who were on their books last season. And that's what makes it look like they've got a really... And they have got a decent sized squad. I don't know why they get so defensive about it. Like,
I did enjoy...
It's maybe just that whole, if they don't win the league, they want to have an excuse. I don't know. Or it could just be football fans get defensive about weird shit.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's just that. And yeah, they've obviously started coming back, a lot of chat, and Raith fans are going to be upset. It's like, it's a good laugh, isn't it? It's.
I've seen the T word coming out. The Rovers fans are triggered. Like, are we really?
It's all right.
I don't care, mate.
Yeah, well, that's it. 100%.
Just enjoy the cartoon if we please. That's all I'm saying.
Well, yeah, the cartoons are that's something they've not been introduced to yet, and obviously from our perspective, we will be hoping it does come out. But look,
one thing's for sure: if we don't win, or more so if we lose, well, first of all, there'll be the bizarre half a dozen Dundee United fans that still come in and say, "Where's the cartoons, admin?" Followed by a couple of Dunfermline fans, and then you'll probably get Pavel and some of the other St Johnstone fans jumping on it as well for some reason.
He got instantly muted. It's just a funny thing to see.
Yep.
I think that just the discussions about it does seem that they are quite touchy about the subject. But I'm sure there's a lot of them that just don't care, which is understandable.
Absolutely.
You only see what you see on social media, and they probably see it from looking from their perspective. They'll just see Rovers fans greeting. From our perspective, we see similar. And social media, you've just got to treat it as a bit of a laugh, don't you?
And every time Eric Nicholson does his daily Courier article about St Johnstone and mentions another player coming in or one who might be coming in, to be fair, it is normally retweeted or responded to by 2 or 3 Rovers fans quoting the whole bloated squad back at him. So I can see why they're getting that impression. But 2 or 3 Rovers fans is not an indication of their whole support. So,
and again, it goes right back to the probably the same token of like the responses that you get about the Rovers fans will be giving it large about this one. Is why you then sort of say, they're awfully touchy about this. Whereas probably the majority of them don't care.
Ultimately, it's all just banter, and if without banter, football would be boring. So it's
100%. And we've seen that before. I mean, St Johnstone are going to bring a good support down to Kirkcaldy. I think it'll be hampered by, I would say, I think there's an issue in terms of the trains running. Don't know whether it's a strike or whatever, or there's a limitation in terms of the service. We've seen some really good games before in the past where think back to the first Dundee United game where even though it was absolutely tipping down with rain that season, we were both going for the league. The game on the Saturday, they basically packed out both the south stand or the north stand and the railway stand. I don't think they'll bring as many as Dundee United did, but I think they will still bring down a support that's good because we've not been to Kirkcaldy in a good number of years, so it should be hopefully a good away day for them as a support.
I was reading it's our first league match against them for 20 years. So
would have been the Anelka season.
Obviously, we've played them in the cup at Starks. The game that was a 3-1 game it was on Sky. Joe Cardle scored an absolute screamer for us. That'd be just about the last time they were at Starks, I think. But
yeah, and I think before that, the last time that we'd been up at McDermott was it was McGlynn's second season, I think, because we played Raith Rovers in the cup, got by them, and then we played them up in Perth. So for
that
the
was the game
time,
that was postponed originally Saturday, wasn't it? With a frozen pitch because they didn't bother turning their undersoil heating on, and then it got played during the week.
There's always something with the pitches in Scotland, isn't there? Whether it's Morton not having sprinklers or whether it's St Johnstone. Or, to be fair, it's our neighbours along the road that you look at for that with their undersoil heating that's been a problem. I think they got that fixed in the summer. You did rightfully mention, though, a few players are going to be missing. A lot of the sort of discussions online from a Saints perspective is I wouldn't say necessarily worried about the game, but they're saying it's probably a good time to be playing us because we are missing Stevie Mallon's obviously picked up a bit of a serious injury. He's going to be back in, I think, in mid next month, tail end of next month. Jamie Gullen's sort of 50-50 for this one. They've lost out of it, not so much an injury, but Mackenzie Kirk's gone to Portsmouth for a very large fee. Not quite enough for them to accept from Dunfermline, of course, according to, once again, Eric Nicholson's articles, depending on whether you believe him or not. But yeah.
Sorry, he'll know hear about this anyway because he doesn't know we've got a podcast.
It's all right, I'm not bothered about that. With that, though, would you agree with that assessment? Do you think it is a good time to play Saints? They've obviously had a game-free weekend where they've not had to play anyone last week, but do you think that's maybe a benefit or a hindrance to them, Alan?
I'd almost argue at this stage of the season it's not a benefit. They shouldn't be tired. They're playing one game a week. It's not like it's long over. It's not like they've been playing a lot of games and they're kind of needing a rest. I think if anything, they would have been looking to kind of get back out and play. I know when we had the week off a couple of weeks ago, Barry Robson said that. He was like, yes, it's good to give some players a bit of a rest, but you want to keep playing. And playing once a week, that's what these guys are. That's their job. Right? They're perfectly capable of doing that. I don't think they needed the rest. I would argue we would have got a lot more out of a kind of really decent win down at Capel than they got for sitting on their arses on Saturday.
Yeah, I do wonder how much they've learned from their game against Morton, because that was a tough match for them. Morton got their wonder goal and then basically set up shop.
In terms of injuries, we've already established they've got a backup in every position. So
very true. I mean,
are they as good? You're not going to get a like-for-like replacement for a fully fit Stephen Mallon in the Championship. A fully fit Stephen Mallon with no injury concerns and a decent number of games under his belt isn't playing in the Championship. Quite frankly, potentially too good even, other than maybe the top 3 or 4, potentially too good for the Premiership. He's got that much ability in him. So you're not getting a like-for-like replacement there, albeit if you could get Sam Stanton up to his kind of form of that season a couple of years ago under Ian Murray, he's as close to a replacement as you're going to get in this league. Thankfully, he's not been hitting those heights for them. So it'd be interesting to see what they do. Personally, I think it'd be a bit daft to risk Jamie Gunn because he's not a guy who's going to go out there and give you anything other than 100%. And how many times, did we maybe rush him back and put him out in a game and he kind of ran himself into the ground and literally ran himself into the ground, he injured himself again. So he's not the kind of guy who's going to hold back. So I think, I doubt we'll see Gullen. He might be on the bench, you might give him 10 minutes in, but I don't think he'll start.
With it, I'm keen to see what they do actually do in replacing Mallon because I know that they've got Stanton there. He's, their fans don't really seem sold on him, and obviously with Rovers fans, they know fully aware how well he can play if he's in the mood, but whether he can reach that level, completely different question. I think the main player to be stopping is Josh McPake. He's picked up the Player of the Month at the Championship. He's naturally going to draw the headlines, and really, really intriguing sort of career path for Josh McPake because he was signed by Craig Levein last summer and he was almost seen as a bit of a write-off at the tail end of, tail end of last season. And Simo Valakari's came in and seems to have turned things around with him where he is looking a lot more progressive, admittedly at a lower level, but he's started the season really, really well. So I do wonder about the best way, and again we'll speak about Rovers soon enough, but that's going to be coming on to that right hand side of the defence, I believe. So I think that's a big question mark over that, but it's very difficult to predict how Saints are going to line up for the polar opposite reason of what Barry Robson's probably like, because where Barry Robson's got that sort of rigidity and likes to keep the same sort of players where he can, if at all possible, in the same system. Simo Valakari does have the options to be able to change it up, mix it up, use the personnel, as he should do with that squad.
I mean, I think the Jason Holt's going to play. If he's fit, he'll play. And I imagine Reece McAlear is going to play as well because he's been, by all accounts, doing really, really well for them. And also, I mean, they're going to be looking at us and thinking, well, chances are Byrne, Brown and Matthews all play. So they really need to try and match up in that midfield. And so, I mean, it's going to be a hell of a battle in the middle of the park, I've got to say.
Yeah, got to agree with that. Just with the midfield trio, we didn't use them really at McDermott Park. So it's very intriguing game on that respect because we have changed. Saints will have changed as well, undoubtedly. But they started the league in such good form. Not really a surprise, probably with the squad that they do have. I think the main surprise is how far ahead that they are of both ourselves and them are of County and some of the other teams that have been mooted. I know we've obviously spoken at great detail about Ayr, given that we've played them before, and sort of keeping an eye on them, their performances over the last little while. But yeah, with them, they convincingly beat Partick Thistle on the opening day. Again, we recently lost to Partick, so we should know that's not exactly a mean feat, shall we say, to come away there. But then on top of that, they go up to Ross County, get a win there in a Friday night game where it looked relatively on a sort of even keel, I would say, from what I can recall. But then they came up at the end and got the winner, head off down the road with 3 points, and automatically you're putting the pressure on County because they'd only got the draw on the opening day against Airdrie. Again, another convincing win against Arbroath, and then you have the draw against Morton. So, I mean, is it really much of a surprise how they've started the league campaign, carrying on that solid League Cup? They lost out in the second round to Motherwell, but came through the group very, very convincingly.
No, I mean, I think it was always, most people had them probably in the top two, like, early season predictions. If I look back on Pan and Bovril, my first lot of predictions, I had them winning the league. Then I saw the kind of signings that County were making, and I kind of started leaning towards that way. But with County, it was always very much, there was potential in their signings, not in the kind of traditional young up and coming players, but it was older, more established players who, if they could stay injury free and hit the ground running, would do really well for them. I don't know the injury situation is at County. I've not really been following their teams, but they clearly haven't hit the ground running, so it's kind of gone the other way. Whereas St Johnstone, I think, are doing pretty much what was expected of them. Mm-hmm. I do think maybe Morton have kind of given a wee nudge into how to kind of deal with them, and that's to. I did catch a bit of the game, to be honest, but it was very much, they were doing Morton things. They were kind of in their faces. They weren't giving them time on the ball. They were kind of really harassing them, which is kind of the way we try and play as well. So I think that's going to be the key, is don't let them pass it around, kind of really get on them. It's probably one of those games that's not necessarily going to be for the kind of modern day football fan, the people who like watching Pep's kind of pass football, because it's going to be 100-mile-an-hour proper Scottish football. It's not going to be pretty, but it'll be bloody entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, well, we say that. I think that the game against Morton, St Johnstone, I can imagine it's one of their fans. Probably very, very frustrating experience to watch your team just continually sort of build up, and then not really be able to translate it in the final third in that game, because they know that they can do it. They've done it against other teams, and you see the result against Partick Thistle. As I say, we obviously lost at Firhill. It was a game up at McDermott Park, though, and they've basically dismantled them, which you've got to give them a degree of credit for. I think over the last few weeks, Rovers have shown a degree, aside from the game at Firhill. Well, even then, I would say we've probably shown a degree of resilience. The win down at Capello last week, when we get put down to 10 men, you take the fact that we came from 2-0 down against Thistle to come back to 2-2, obviously lose out in the end through an error, but yeah, you look before that, even the opening day, Queen's Park, we've shown a ability to get back into the game, again a bit fortuitous, and then we beat Dunfermline in the derby. So you're really hoping for this. That I think it's about carrying that through with Rovers. Like, can we have that moment of magic? And we've played in these big games before, so I mean, it just we'll turn on to sort of Rovers' perspective now and look at our side of things, Alan. How much do you think it carries forward? Because we've had a lot of players that have been in the squads for the last two campaigns, shall we say. So since this new board came in. So in those sorts of seasons, we've had the games against Dundee United and then laterally against Falkirk, where these have been teams that have been up the top end of the league. They've came to Starks, and yet we've still put in good performances. Do you think that bodes well for how we potentially could go against Saints?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think where we struggle, particularly at home, is when teams do what Queen's Park did. And that's just sit in and try and keep us out. You know, in terms of we've not been great over the last while of kind of breaking teams down and kind of getting through kind of tight, solid defences. I don't think St Johnstone are going to do that. They'll want to set a marker down. They'll want to come and not put us in our place, but they'll want to come and win the game. They're not. I'm sure the more realistic St Johnstone fans would probably say if they can come away for Starks Park with a point, it's a bloody good point. But they'll still be coming there trying to win and thinking they can win, and they are capable of coming and winning. So I don't see them sitting in and playing defensively, which helps us because we've got guys who, if there's a bit of space there for them to exploit, they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I'd be really happy if I was wrong about what the football match is going to look like, and if it did turn into really good passing, attacking football. Who knows? But it's going to be a tough game for both teams. But as I say, I think we will get chances because they'll come out and have a go at us, which plays into the hands of Easton and McMullen and guys like that.
So I think in the build-up of the squad for Rovers, got two returning faces from international duty. Not enough for the postponement of that Morton game, because we're not clearly heading to overkill with this, even though it was a fair chunk of our squad. Richard Chin flies back halfway around the world, straight back into training with his suitcase behind him. And of course, Josh Gentles as well. He comes back from a spell with Wales, who had played against Belgium in a game down there. I think he got some time on the pitch. A couple of sort of feel-good stories, particularly the one with Richard Chin, given the interest in Malaysia and the Malaysian fan base, which is now growing for Rovers.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm sure it'll have done his confidence the world of good to go out there and kind of to experience that, to get some time on the pitch and get his first cap, and to just be part of the international squad must have been a kind of a really good feeling for him. And as you say, fair play to the lad for like turning up at training, having just got back into the country at 6 a.m. or something like that. In fairness, I don't think he would have dared not do it. Like, I think you'd rather turn up at training and have Barry Robson say, "Get him to your bed," than like not turn up and have him on the phone saying, "Where the hell are you?" So fair play to him for doing it. But yeah, I'm hoping he gets something from it. I think there's a lot of positive feelings about Richard Chin among the Rovers support based on kind of what we've seen of him, and I think I'm probably not alone among the support thinking I'd like to see a bit more. And I think I know he's scored in a friendly, but I think if he can get off the mark as well, I think he'll just, build on that and he'll just kind of go from strength to strength. And I think as the season goes on, I think he'll be a really important player for us in terms of where games are getting a little bit stretched. What a guy to bring on, because he adds that kind of directness and pace that, running at a tired defence I think he'll do some damage once he gets kind of properly up to speed with the league.
Yeah, we've spoken a lot before about Paul McMullen, and me in particular. I've mentioned the chaos factor, but that's Richard Chin 101. And it's very, very hard as a football fan not to get excited about a player like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know that we've spoken at great length about him, but I think he's a really big return to the squad, just for being able to because when he came on for Malaysia, certainly I watched the game against Palestine that they played. He came on for sort of the final 15 minutes, and he got put in at the sort of the right side of defence as a sort of fullback, basically.
Okay.
Didn't get much of an opportunity to get on the ball, but in the contributions that he did have, you could just see he was playing exactly the same way that he does for us. He was just happy to take players on. I was saying, I did find it funny that at one point he just sort of knocked a ball past a player who'd sort of blocked him off, and then they got the Malaysian equivalent of Jack Hamilton just bodying that other player off the ball, which was quite amusing to see. Yeah, and even with Josh Gentles, I feel like with Josh Gentles, he's one that maybe people are kind of sleeping on a little bit. I think that I think people are automatically making this assumption that he's going to come in and not play much of a role. I'd disagree with that. I think that he's got the opportunity there. If he can get on the pitch, I think we'll be able to see a turn, and he'll maybe surprise people.
I mean, I've not seen much of him. I've spoken to Rangers fans who seem to rate him highly. I've seen a few Alloa fans kind of suggesting that he's definitely got something about him. And I think probably one of the main reasons that a lot of people are not expecting to see much of him is because we're not playing with strikers at the moment. and when we do bring guys off the bench, you've got Lewis Vaughan, you've got Jack Hamilton, you've got Callum Smith coming back, and when is he going to get some game time? But without having seen too much of him, it'll be about, for him, does he bring something different that the other three don't give us? Whether it's being just that kind of proper penalty box striker that can be invaluable at a club. It's going to be really interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Just with the squad going into Saturday, and looking at it now, aside from the sort of right wing back position, do you think it's a bit of a foregone conclusion with it that we will keep the same? I know that we usually have this discussion, and it's usually Blair, and I could probably just copy and paste a segment from a previous podcast just into this. But yeah, I mean, do you think it is that sort of will stick the same, or do you think can you see it potentially changing because it's St Johnstone and it's maybe they've got a bit more to it or a bit different conditions compared to the Morton game? And as well, I mean, do you think it's a risk to revert to the same? Obviously, the results that we've been getting largely have been wins, very positive in terms of the points on board. I have seen a bit of discussion on Pine Bovril about the style play, but again, a lot of people just saying, look, we've seen teams that have been in terms of it that have been a lot worse in terms of the style or the way that things have been going. What do you make of that? Do you think it is something that Barry Robson, again, likely to stick the same, but just with the circumstances, could there be any potential changes?
In terms of playing style, I'll be honest, when I think of kind of the teams I've enjoyed watching most from football in general, not in terms of watching the Rovers, I don't look back at the kind of, the early 2010s Barcelona and think, oh man, I enjoyed what I didn't enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
I think of the Man United team from the late 90s, early 2000s, who were very much kind of, it was about getting the ball forward, not putting up the park, but it was about, they could score, they could be defending a corner and score like 5 seconds later. It was just about pace, directness, but with skill involved. That's the kind of football I like watching. I'm not saying that that's the way we're playing, but in terms of, it's all fast and furious. It's get in there, win the ball back, turn it over quickly, get it up the park, get it into the channels for Easton and McMullen. I like watching that. I actually do find it quite entertaining. I'd like more goals from it. I think that'll come if McMullen gets one. I think he'll get a few, and we've been saying that for a couple of weeks now, but I do believe it. In terms of the shape and the kind of the lineup, I think if we're looking at the games we're playing the three kind of tough midfielders where you would want to do that. This is probably one of them. One, because as I've mentioned, they've got a pretty damn good midfield themselves. But also, they're a good team. You want to stay solid. You want to you don't want to give them too much room to get through you in that midfield. So ultimately, I think if Josh Mullen doesn't get sent off, I think we're going out with the same team.
Yeah.
I've not seen anything to suggest we've appealed the red card, so I think we're just taking it on the chin and we're going with, I think, sensibly, because I don't. It comes down to an objective. If the referee puts in his report, he thinks it was too much force. How do you argue with that one? I don't think it was a red card, but I don't think you get it overturned anyway. So ultimately, what I think is, Jordan Doherty will go out to right wing back, and Darragh O'Connor will come in and take his place as right centre back, and that'll be the only change, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
and I'm not bothered. I'm quite happy with that, to be quite honest.
Yep, that was going to be my next question. Was like who you thought would come in for it? Because again, with Barry Robson, bit of a conundrum there. J. Rose not been given the opportunity to really even get back into the team, and I know that there's been sort of discussions about that, but. Yeah, again, sometimes players coming in from the cold, they can really surprise you. We've seen that before. Sean Burns is a perfect example. And you don't know if that's something that Barry Robson maybe does as a manager. Like, can almost sort of really make sure that a player's so hungry to get back into the team that when the opportunity does come, they're thinking, right, I'm absolutely getting fucking taking this one. Like, just going straight for it.
Absolutely. And that's massive, massive credit to Sean Burns, because he has made himself undroppable the last few weeks.
Oh, it's a huge credit to him. He's been so consistent this season, and even on Saturday, I don't think he, aside from the tackle that led to the red card, and again goes into very cliche territory, but given the referee a decision, I know that it's very much like sort of one that's split opinion as such, depending on who you ask. I know a lot of the reaction at the Green was the referee's got that wrong, but. For the highlights, you probably think, well, you can see why he has gone down that route. Yeah. But aside from that, Josh Mullen, excellent so far. I know that, again, even the Partick game, I think that it's just one where Aidan Fitzpatrick's one of the best wingers in the league. It's a tough ask for it. You've seen other fullbacks put in games against him, and they've just not got close to him. So for Josh Mullen to be moving into that wing-back position, and it's not really worked out on the day, again, I wouldn't be overly upset about it. With the way that we play, I think that I do feel that people I do feel there's a degree of exaggeration with it. Like, I mean, I know particularly within the last few games, we've the best performance was probably the game that we did lose against Partick Thistle away. But even then, like the game against Dunfermline, quite attritional. Managed to get the goals and got the job done. But there's not really any easy games in this league this season, which is a strange thing. We've seen that against Queen's Park already. Arbroath are flying in the table. They're going to be a tough game in a fortnight's time. So I think sometimes you need to be a bit pragmatic about these things. And as well, Barry Robson did show at the tail end of last season that he can get us playing some good football and we can score goals. Like, we saw that on a few occasions. So sometimes it's just waiting for your chance to come around. And you never know when that'll be. Sometimes just these performances will come up and you absolutely body a team unexpectedly.
No, absolutely. And someone touched on it, I think it was the post-match the other day about, it's playing. We're playing with no strikers, but we're not playing defensively. We're staying solid, but McMullen and Easton are very, very attacking players, and they're getting guys coming forward and supporting them. But also the other thing that someone mentioned was, if you're a defence and you think you're doing all right, but you're starting to get a bit tired, and then you look over at the touchline and there's Lewis Vaughan and Jack Hamilton coming on, you're just like, oh, for fuck's sake. You're just thinking, what? So they're not starting, but my God, they're good options to have coming off the bench.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I mean, even going into this one, this is probably a bit of straw clutching from myself, but in terms of league home form, that obviously carries on from that unbeaten run. So we don't. Again, people forget that it's factored in that Thistle are the only team to beat us in terms of that. In the sense, aside from of course the League Cup, where we lost against East Kilbride, but I think that circumstances very different now compared to then. So you never know how the squad will handle that, and to be able to take it. For me, it reminds me of the game that we played against Dundee United, the one that I mentioned earlier on, the 1-0 draw, where Lewis Vaughan and then I think was it Louis Moult got the goal for United.
I think so.
Yeah. That was the first game that we played them that season. We'd spoken about the railway stand.
Holiday for that one as well.
Yeah. Well, again, might be a Roman, but just the whole feeling for that. It didn't have the bitterness, shall we say, that came after the sort of latter two games of that one. We obviously took the big support up to Tannadice in the second game, but it just had a feeling that like United have obviously started like they should as favourites to win the league. But that was the moment I think a lot of people sat up and took notice of Rovers and said, actually, I know that they've been getting 90th minute goals, but let's be honest, this is a good start to the league campaign for them. They've got their monkey off their back against Cali. They've beaten Dunfermline in the derby. A couple of games like the Morton and Queen's Park ones where they've won it late on, and then you have that to be able to kick on.
Ultimately, you do well and you put yourself up there to be shot at, and football fans love shooting at you.
100%.
You always have to have a bad guy, and if teams up there that aren't expected to be up there, you get all sorts of accusations of being kind of, you're getting ahead of yourself, you're getting above your station, you're never going to keep this up, blah, blah, blah. So they love to shoot you down.
Yeah.
Bring it. If we're getting that, it means we're doing well. So bring it on.
Well, you get that at the other end of the table as well. Like,
absolutely.
You look at the way that even, I know we've gone on about them quite a lot recently, particularly myself, but Ayr, obviously, a lot of the sort of discussion and dialogue about them and the way that things are going with Ayr.
Yeah, well, that's a terrorist on their Scott Brown Under Pressure podcast now, though, so let's see how he responds to that.
It was an interesting listen, just talking about the way that he manages things and sort of management. Man management in particular, stuff like dropping the goalkeepers and things like that.
And skipping the 50 quid a head meet and greet dinner to go on the BBC for a Scotland game.
We'll park that for another day. We will park that for another day, Alan. Albeit I did reference it on Pang Bovril, as I say, in the thread, which just came back with the usual chat about die sales and fucking that nonsense.
Let's not get into Ayr. I don't know.
We'll stick with Rovers. But it does have that feeling, this game, about it. Like I said, the sort of Dundee United at home, big fixture, just two teams that have started very strongly and want to maintain that. So, I mean, it might feed into that potential.
It's about momentum for us, isn't it? I mean, we've had our setback against Thistle, albeit played well. Could easily have come out of that game with a point, potentially could have gone and, snuck a win out of it. We've had that setback and we've come back with a really good result. Not the best performance in the world, but a really good result at a venue that's been really tough for us the last couple of years. So again, it all comes down to that resilience. We didn't necessarily have, I suppose we had the setback of the red card in the game, but we were already ahead by that point. So it was about kind of staying strong. But you'd argue, we've had to come back for the disappointment of the week before. So now it's about kind of building on that and kind of getting a good result and sending out a message to St Johnstone that, we're right up there with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
All 374 years in that squad.
We'll not revisit that one. I think if any St Johnstone fans have stuck around to this point, fair play to them.
I wonder if they're opening the railway stand actually to fit all the guys in who are not on the bench. Sorry, I'm just kidding.
You never know. We're just on the wind up at the moment, aren't we? But that's what it's all about. Just for me, the start of the season that we've had, I think that it's been positive, and you look at a lot of the discussion. I know I've said this before, and I hammer home the point that a lot of the discussion about teams like Ayr and Dunfermline, Ross County, of course, as well, was that they would be in these sorts of top four positions. Like, it was almost like it was a bit of a given. and now I think there's questions asked. Ross County, by the way, just we're talking about St Johnstone. Callum Davidson moving up there as assistant manager. That's an odd one. He's a double winning manager that's with St Johnstone, who then goes on to Queen's Park and bodies Rangers out the cup. Less than a year ago, before bodying Rovers as well at home in the last loss that we had. And now, that game there, last loss in the league at home, I should say, before anyone jumps down my throat. But yeah, a very strange move, that one.
I don't think anyone saw it coming. I think everyone just assumed Tony Docherty had gone in there, John Robertson was going to be his assistant, that was it, job done. I've not seen confirmation that John Robertson's left. I didn't read the statement because I don't care that much. But if he hasn't, that's the most expensively assembled second tier coaching staff since we had Jimmy Nicholl,
Alex
Smith and Terry Butcher.
Aye. Well, I don't know. I suspect Rangers probably at some point had
I suppose,
a bit of a wild one, I'm guessing.
Very good point, actually, yeah.
I
suppose Neil Lennon wouldn't. Even now, actually, Neil Lennon's probably on more than the three of them put together.
Aye, well, we'll leave Neil Lennon out of this one. Right, we're up at the 50-minute mark. Now, the last time that I did a pre-match preview, Stevie Gray then got very upset because he was sitting at work and the episode finished abruptly. So I'm going to put you through a should McStay, should Dargo on your own, Alan, just to pad out some time here. I've got 6 questions about a past or present Rover to ask you. And I want to see if you can get them within the 6. A one-man
I
solo.
think the main reason for this actually is not even about, obviously the people listening are getting to play along as well. But I'm wondering what any of our new Malaysian listeners are going to think of this. They're just going to be like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, so just to explain for anyone tuning in from Southeast Asia who happens to have stumbled upon the podcast, we have a game where it's 6 clues about a past or present Raith Rovers player, and try and see how quickly you can get that. So yeah, for clue 1, I was born on the 28th of December, 1992.
So 32-year-old. I think
Sam Stanton. Clue number 2. It's an era one, Blair, you'll be delighted. John McGlynn, Mark II.
I think that still fits Sam Stanton.
Yeah, it does. Clue number 3. I spent 1 season at the Rovers.
That rules out Sam Stanton.
Yep, it does indeed.
1 season at the Rovers. John McGlynn, Mark II. I don't know if the age fits or the timing, but Declan McManus.
Declan McManus.
That's the kind of hazy period for me.
That's fair enough. I don't blame you.
Just before I got back into coming properly, when the wee man decided he wanted to.
How did you not get put off by that? Like, that's
That's weird because I mean I moved away to Doon. It was an hour away. And then the kids came along, and it was as it happens, things get in the way. And it was only really when he started getting into football, and I was like, well, if I don't take him to Rovers, he's going to end up a Rangers fan. So he's getting dragged to Rovers with me. I think I mentioned in our group chat recently, his first game was an absolute horsing at Starks Park for Ayr United. And then I think his second game was not long after that at East End Park, and we got pumped in that one as well. And he kept coming. Well, if you can deal with that, you're very much prepared to be a Rovers fan.
It's the Yeah, the resilience it builds, isn't it? That
Absolutely.
you need, especially in those dark times.
What I've actually said to him is, you know what, all of these really crappy days, and there will be many, many of them, all of them added together make the really good days all that much better. Like those
100%.
Ian's speech on this podcast in the middle of the kind of competing with Dundee United season, when he was like, you know, if you can't enjoy this, then what are you doing to support? That's what that season was all about. It was yes, ultimately it was disappointing, but there was so many moments in that you're like, that's what all of these shitty days make this worth it.
Fully agree. It's you always look back and there's games that you talk about where it's for all the bad things that happen, but you've still got, albeit a far fewer number, but the ones that were good are just so great, it's unreal. And that's why I suppose that's a universal thing when football fans at every level is like, when you get your wins, like, yeah, obviously they differ depending on who you're talking about. Celtic will be talking about Barcelona and we're talking about wins up in Aberdeen. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole point of all this kind of detour was just an excuse if I've got loads of folk like listening to this shouting, going, Declan McManus didn't play under McGlenn. What the hell are you on about, YouTube?
I mean,
I wasn't going that much then.
Right, so just to recap the clues before we head on to the fourth, it's born on the 28th of December 1992, a John McGlynn Mark II player who spent one season at Rovers. I'm a centre forward who has 190 career appearances and 46 goals.
I've got to stick with Declan McManus.
I suspect clue 5 might be the one to do it for you, though. I've played for 24 clubs in my career.
I'm interesting. Manny Dooku.
Well, my next clue was, are you still fucking playing? As quoted by Regan Tumulty, St Johnstone right back. There's my link in with the clubs. I took it a wee bit different. Yes, you're absolutely right. It was Manny Dooku, the half-season prolific forward who then disappeared for the latter half of the season. And
he was 2020-2021 season. A player, man. But genuinely, when that first half of that season, I'm watching him thinking, we're going to do well to keep a hold of him in January. Someone's going, like a Premiership team are going to come and take him, and he's going to go on and do great things. And then, was he not allegedly responsible for the COVID outbreak in the squad and stuff like that because he was ignoring the rules? And then he just, it's a bit of an attitude problem.
Yeah.
Could you imagine him in a Barry Robson squad?
Yes, not the applied work ethic that I think we know. But again, it's bizarre to have that player that you've spoken about. I've never seen him play in the flesh, like because of. Well, actually, that's a lie. I did see him play for Cali Thistle, and never scored for them, which was I think a point that he never recaptured that sort of form. I don't know about later on in his career, but yeah, he's just. One that you felt like we had lightning in a bottle, and then the bottle got shattered, and we then turned to Gozi Ugwu, who, another far more enjoyable and likeable player, Gozi.
Another kind of strange one, who I could never make up my mind whether he was good or not, other than that game against Dunfermline when he was awesome.
Yeah, he had a game down at Palmerston, Gozi, where he was just absolutely unplayable, just absolutely rolling people about. That was a game Regan Hendry went on a mazy run from about the halfway line and took on about like 6 or 7 players, and then so close to scoring like what would have been one of the greatest Rovers goals of all time. But yeah, unfortunately did a Derek Carcary and put it wide of the post. But again, that's another throwback.
Anyway, I'm just picturing Regan Hendry playing lovely passes in my head now, which is nice.
Well, he'll be back one day. He did say on a podcast elsewhere once before that he would come back to Rovers at some point.
Doing pretty well for himself. So.
Scored from the halfway line a few weeks ago, which was great to see. But anyway, that'll round off the preview for our St Johnstone game. Stevie, I hope that an hour's enough for you. I can't really say much more than that. We will, of course, be back with a full post-match debrief, hopefully with a bit more numbers. We were quite unfortunate tonight. Scott did join, but then we had to restart because of his internet connection, having a bit of issues there. But the effort was still there from Scott Fleming. But, of course, we will be back, as I say, for the post-match debrief against St Johnstone. Thank you as ever for taking the time to listen, and bye for now.